Voter fraud is already taking place in Virginia. A corrupt judge is allowing illegal immigrants to stay on the voting rolls to influence the 2024 presidential election. Democrats' plan is to cheat, just like they did in 2020. Democrats have destroyed every single thing in the United States of America, our border, our sovereignty, our education system. They weaponized the Justice Department against political opponents, mainly Donald Trump. They have destroyed every major city in America with their policies. Let's jump right into the article. Judge orders Virginia to halt removal of potential non-citizens from voter rolls. Harris Faulkner says Virginia voting roll ruling looks political. Go figure. Youngkin vows to appeal to the Supreme Court of the United States after U.S. judge orders 1,600 voters back on ballot. The ruling allows voters removed from the rolls to be reinstated. Now, why would Democrats want this? Because they plan on cheating, just like how they cheat, lie, steal. It's ridiculous. It's disgusting. They corrupt and pollute every single thing they touch.
And joining me now, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin. Governor, good to have you on the show today.
Yeah, good morning, Shannon. Thank you for having me. And thanks for giving us an opportunity to talk about this most important topic in Virginia right now, which is the Department of Justice suit when we're trying to make sure that only citizens vote in Virginia and we're trying to stand by our Constitution and our law.
Yeah, they have instituted a lawsuit against you. They've done it in Alabama as well, saying this purge goes in violation of the 90-day quiet period, that federal law that says you can't do systemic or large purges within 90 days. Here's part of their lawsuit. They say systemic removal programs are more error-prone than other forms of list maintenance, and eligible voters placed on the path to removal days or weeks before Election Day may be deterred from voting or unable to participate in the election on the same terms that they would have but for the Commonwealth's error. You say this is not a mass purge, it's not systemic, and you, apparently your team has uncovered something else involving the DOJ on this specific case.
Yeah, to be clear, this is not a purge. This is based on a law that was signed into effect in 2006 by then Democrat Governor Tim Kaine. And it starts with a basic premise that when someone walks into one of our DMVs and self-identifies as a non-citizen, and then they end up on the voter rolls, either purposely or by accident, that we go through a process, individualized, not systematic, an individualized process based on that person's self-identification as a non-citizen to give them 14 days to affirm they are a citizen, and if they don't, they come off the voter rolls. And by the way, they have one last safeguard, which is they can come and same-day register and cast a provisional ballot. And so to describe this as something that's a purge is completely inaccurate. It's wholly consistent with the U.S. Constitution, the Virginia Constitution, and Virginia law. And just recently, of course, what we found was that back in 2006, the then Justice Department actually approved of this law and said that it is not only further constitutional, but we have given it thorough review and we're okay with you moving ahead with it. And now, 25 days last week before the election, a Justice Department decides they are going to bring suit after this law has been in effect for 18 years, administered by Democrat and Republican governors. And this is the reason why I believe that Americans and Virginians wonder what the Justice Department is up to. It's been in effect for 18 years.
Christopher Wray, Merrick Garland, Alejandro Mayorkas need to be sent to Gitmo.
Been applied universally by Republican and Democrat governors. And now all of a sudden, when Virginia is getting tight, it launches a lawsuit against the Commonwealth of Virginia when we are trying to make sure that citizens vote, not non-citizens.
Well, here's a couple questions to follow up to that. You talk about the DOJ giving approval back in 2006 or early on in conjunction with when this law was actually passed, as you note, under a Democrat senator who's now Democrat senator. He was a Democrat governor. But has it been used within that 90-day quiet period before? Is that why the DOJ is honing in on it this time?
It had been used within the 90-day quiet period, most recently by Democrat Governor Terry McAuliffe and Ralph Northam, and they said nothing about it at the time. The reality is that this is not a purge. It is not systematic. It is individualized. And it starts with someone identifying as a non-citizen and then ending up on our voter rolls, as I said, either purposely or by accident. And the reality is, how can we as a nation, and how can I as a governor, allow non-citizens to be on the voter roll? This is just not right. It's not just constitutionally correct, it's common sense.
Okay, so we know a federal judge, by the way, nominated by President Trump, down in Alabama, similar suit with the DOJ. They've got a different program, but the judge there did put Alabama's program on hold, but did say if you have individualized cases, you can take those individuals off. You just can't do anything systemic. So it'll be interesting to see what a federal judge decides with respect to Virginia. How far are you guys prepared to fight this if you lose?
Well, we're going to fight it because we're right. And again, this is not a systematic process. This is individualized. And it starts with someone who, in fact, declares that they are a non-citizen. And of course, there are multiple safeguards. They get 14 days to affirm they are a citizen. And if they don't, they can same-day register and cast a provisional ballot. This is constitutionally correct. It's consistent with everything that Virginia stands for. And on top of that, it's common sense. Listen, elections in the United States should be decided by citizens. And non-citizens just shouldn't be on the voter rolls. And we're going to make sure that elections in Virginia are fair and accurate and safe. We have paper ballots. We have counting machines, not voting machines. We have great custody laws, and we're going to make sure that we have the cleanest voter rolls in the country.
Okay, and of course, we all know it is illegal for non-citizens to vote in federal elections. I want to get to the campaign itself because that's why this is such a big issue. You have campaigned for President Trump. This week, in a sit-down with our own Bret Baier, this is what the vice president had to say about President Trump.
Even people who worked for him in the Oval Office,
Here we go.
worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again.
She cited retired General Mark Milley, who served, of course, in the Trump administration. He is quoted in Bob Woodward's new book saying this: "He is the most dangerous person ever," meaning President Trump. "I had suspicions when I talked to you about his mental decline and so forth, but now I realize he's a total fascist. He is now the most dangerous person to this country." There are ads with quotes from former Trump staffers, people who served under him, saying similar things. Why should Americans not have some concern if people who worked closest with President Trump are describing him this way?
I think what this whole line of attack on President Trump reflects is the fact that we have a candidate in the Democratic Party who is unable to really convey a future vision for the country and what she's going to do to attack the most important issues. And so what do? They actually have to revert to old adages about what they have been calling him for a long time, which is sadly the lie that he's unfit for office. And the reality, of course, is if they would just focus on what voters are focusing on, which is the economy, the border, national security, and of course, feeling safe in our own country because of the number of illegal immigrants that have come across the border and changed every state into a border state. Shannon, I'm a governor in a state that is purple. It just is. And I travel around the Commonwealth consistently listening to voters. And what I hear over and over and over again is a massive concern about their economic future, their ability to afford groceries and gas and tuition and to buy a home or make their rental payment. What I hear over and over and over again are major concerns about the millions of people who have come across the border and the hundreds of thousands of violent criminals that have come across the border, just identified 2 weeks ago by senior ICE officials. And what I also hear is major concerns about safety. And these are the topics that President Trump is talking about. And the reason why the other side can't talk about them and they want to distract everyone is because they have demonstrated over the last 3.5 years they don't have any answers. They've unleashed unprecedented inflation that has been a gut punch every time anybody walks into a grocery store. They've allowed millions upon millions of illegal immigrants to come across the border and turn every state into a border state. And what's happened around the world is just a representation of a weak presidency, a weak vice presidency, and a weak America. Americans and Virginians want strength back in the White House, and they want someone who will stand for a strong economy and build one that lifts up all Americans like we had before. High growth, low inflation, not low growth and high inflation, where people can get great jobs and manufacturing comes back to the United States. This is the future that Virginians and Americans are talking to me about. And that's why we see President Trump surging in the polls around the country.
Well, the message about what to accomplish sounds very much like the one that Governor Moore gave us as well. So we will see which one is more convincing to voters as they have been voting and they continue to head to the polls ahead of November 5th. Governor, thanks for your time.
Shannon, thank you for having me. God bless you.
You too.
The whole reason for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Alejandro Mayorkas, Christopher Wray, Merrick Garland to flood the country with illegals, criminals, gangbangers, people who commit sexual assault. They'll take anybody. You know why? They want to drop them off in your neighborhood, in your county, in your state. Let them vote so Democrats will have power or maintain power forever. Here, we'll give you housing, healthcare, a car, a phone, groceries, all on the American taxpayer's dime, just as long as you vote for us. It's absolutely disgusting. It should make you sick to your stomach. And stand up. It's time to stop being quiet about it. And it's time to get out there and vote for Trump. Because if you don't vote for Trump, you can kiss the country goodbye.